how close is it to passing a Turing test? As we might have heard about the Turing test a lot of times. Can you share the knowledge of in terms of an example, like how would a human will react to questions and how would a GPT-3 will?
Yeah, so, well, like I said, I think the main difference is that like the human actually understand the meaning of what they're saying. The GPT-3, it's a language kind of word, it's playing essentially a word prediction game. It's really predicting the next most likely word and then use that sentence to create the sentences and then the text that it generates for you. So I think that I don't think honestly, I don't think it will pass the Turing test today. Because you could think that it's okay. I was okay. Maybe let me step back a little bit. I would say that maybe it will pass the Turing test if you're a very loose kind of judge, right? I would say that, yeah. So I think the way I look at GPT-3 is like it's like a person kind of having a stream of consciousness reading out. Kind of like it's kind of whatever word comes to mind, it just says it, and then in a sentence whatever you want. So it's like a person's half drunk or something, or half sober, right? And just saying whatever is in his mind. It's taking the most likely words, what is based on whatever it's. So the GPT-3 is essentially a neural network with the attention mechanism. So we were talking about GPT-3. I mean, so again, like GPT-3, like I said before, it's just a neural network with essentially attention mechanism. So based on what you're thinking about, right? You're attending to, it's going to give you different words. Again, the foundation of it is really a word prediction. It predicts the next words. Like given the sentence that you have so far, if I say the sky is, right, next most likely word is probably blue, right? Blue. Or some other. They're based on other sentences that you said before, and you can say like, oh, today is very cloudy, the sky is, then maybe the most next likely probable word is gray or dark or something like that. So based on these other sentences that you have before. So it's looking at all the text that it has generated and essentially playing a word prediction game. So and then if that's the case, right, then you say, well, wouldn't it just generate the same text all the time if I type in the same kind of words for you to use it as a seed? But so the only thing that makes it kind of a little bit more random is this attention mechanism based on what is thinking, what is attending to, right? If I'm attending to actually something traveling or in the Caribbean, then maybe the sky is blue. The next word should be blue. But if I'm attending to like, oh, I hear the forecast is going to have a storm today, then maybe the next word is the most likely word is not, because I'm attending to something about the rain. Maybe it's gray or dark. So this mechanism of attention is what gives a lot of this, I would say, human-like behavior of GPT-3. But in reality, what is actually doing is still based on this word prediction game. It's going to be the next most likely word. So if the way I like to think about it, it's really like a kind of a stream of consciousness for a human. If you are just thinking about all the words that comes to you and just say it out loud, then that's and in a sentence, whatever comes to mind, because thinking, then that's kind of like a GPT-3. It makes sense. It's a sentence. It's because it's humans say that sentence, but it's not necessarily, I would say, have any too much meaning or something like that. I would say it may have some meaning from other contexts, but these words are actually trained with text from human, right? So it may drawn from a huge repertoire of text data. So that's where it kind of derives it's kind of all the other contexts that they may seem realistic to humans before. But if you type in some C text and ask the GPT-3 to complete it, I would say that most of the time it would sound like I'm talking to someone who's kind of, I would say, half sober, right? Half drunk type of situation, right? So, yeah, it will make some sense as if it's I'm talking to a human, but if I talk with it long enough, I'm not so sure. I would say that, like, if you think about it, I think there are tests that people have done. They put like text or blocks out generated by completely with these GPT-3, like, or maybe not GPT-3 or GPT-2, or GPT stand for generative pre-trained transformer.
Yeah.
So transformer is this neural network architecture that
Right.
that's very suitable for modeling languages. So yeah, and I think initially, if you take a quick scheme at it, they look good. But if you over time, if you a lot of people looking at it, hundreds and thousands and 10,000s of people looking at it. Some people would say, this is a little weird. And then, guess what? They were. So again, this is the idea of that diversity. If you have one person looking at it, you may not find any problem. If you have enough people with enough background, maybe how come he talk about this term and it's used in this context? Maybe in some expertise of, maybe he's I don't know, a medical doctor. In this context, it's actually, it doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
So only maybe the expert, like a doctor or some other discipline or some other experts would notice that, and other experts, in their respective area probably would not have noticed or even caught it. So I think that's, to answer your question, I would say humans are not GPT-3 at all. I think, yeah. I would say how much human is GPT? I would say very low. I mean, I would say
Right.
probably less than 5% at
Right.
the time. I think that the key thing is really the understanding of the meaning of what they're saying, rather than just using the correlation. If I'm playing the word prediction game, even with this attention mechanism, I'm actually using the correlation. These words tend to correlate with a whole set of words that I've said before. So
Right.
I'm going to pick that as my next most likely word, and then I'll pick the next word, and I'll pick the next word. They're all based on correlation and probability. And so it's not really understanding the meaning of what they actually said. So yeah.
And how do you think the GPT-4 or the GPT-5s, the future GPTs might evolve? What is your idea about it? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah, I think that it will develop to be more human-like if you start to understand I would say that the causality in the world. I would say
Right.
that it doesn't understand a lot of things, or how our physical world operates. So I would say that it's very simple things that it would fail. I mean, I think if you describe a physical scenario or situation, that doesn't happen very very commonly, and then GPT-3 will probably fail to understand completely what that means. And some of these may be common sense. If I push this, it's going to tip over. It's a common sense for us. But I think that if I describe, I think I could craft probably some scenario where the GPT-3 would fail miserably, just using simple physics, right? For phenomena that probably doesn't people don't talk about very often, right? Because again, right, if people talk about it frequently, then it's going to reflect it in our language, and GPT-3 would have the training data to model that and mimic that, and that would be fine. They will react the way as we expect it, because other people have already responded to those type of inquiries in the past. But if you pick a scenario where people don't often talk about it, and it's a very simple physical phenomena, I would say that GPT probably has zero understanding of the causality of how the world actually works.